All right, y'all, we're taking a look at this boudoir photography business today. We're going to be seeing for these two Google searches, does it have BSS for each Google search, yes or no? And we're back here in the GVC universe where we're taking declining boudoir photographers to the #1 boudoir photographer in their city. As always, our North Star is FSIC, full spectrum intent capture. And more about that, pinned video, pinned post, home video, wherever, somewhere around here. And that's because FSIC explains why all boudoir photographers either rise or fall. So over on the left side here, well, we got FSIC, kind of our graph in white. Over on the left, the highest intent peeps searching on Google, searching on social media, social search for the highest, or for a boudoir photo shoot in their city right now. So we focus on those peeps. We make our videos about BSS. And wherever on the right, the lowest intent peeps, the only way to reach them is interruption ads via Facebook, Instagram. They ain't searching for a boudoir photo shoot in their city right now, and most of them don't even know what boudoir is. So that's what we talk about over on our sister brand, Boudoir FB Ad Doctor. Talk about BLCS, and over there right now, we currently only work with boudoir photographers spending more than 10 grand a month in boudoir Facebook ads. All right, so now into BSS, boudoir search sameness. So this one, a boudoir photographer has either zero or one slots on page 1 of Google. 0 slots is bad, that's a fast death, that means we're on page 2 or deeper, and we already know approximately 80% of Google searches never even hit page 2. They are one and done. So we're invisible to approximately 80% of the market if we're on page 2, which means we're going to be dying a fast death. One slot on page 1 is not good enough either, because there's 10 organic slots page 1. So that means there's 9 other, could be 9 other boudoir photographers. Everyone else has 1 slot. So everyone else looks the same. Everyone else has 1 slot. Buyers simply, approximately 80% of buyers. So we got to click down everyone, every link on page 1. They're never even going to go to page 2 or anything deeper. But for the 10 that are there, they'll contact everyone, get quotes, price shop everyone, negotiate, stall, delay, blah, blah, blah. Just annoying way to run a business dealing with this. Now, 0 1 slots on page 1 Google is actually not normal. It's actually a symptom of 2 deeper root causes. Those 2 deeper root causes, one, are market saturation, which basically everyone knows about, people get a new iPhone, new phones, new cameras, new gear. They're throwing up their Google My Business profile saying they're now for boudoir. They are, throwing up their website saying they're for boudoir, competing with us page 1 on Google search, posting in mom groups now from boudoir. This basically lowers margins for everyone, lowers price for everyone, decreases the probability, that anyone gets any buyers, because it's more sellers, boudoir photographers for the same number of buyers, makes it harder for every single seller. And there's a big blast of this COVID, ton of new boudoir photographers enter the market because everyone lost their jobs, had to earn money. Everyone's got a smartphone, super powered camera, so pretty easy kind of to see why that happened. Now, second, actually the biggest thing, which I've seen is the #1 killer of boudoir photography businesses, is the false belief of page 1 equality. And the false belief of page 1 equality, it's kind of like the automatic belief boudoir photographers have had is that, every boudoir photographer gets 0 1 slots page 1 on Google. So if your website ranks there, cool. And maybe you had it there and somebody else came and, ranked their website ranked higher on Google page 1, took you down to, push you out to page 2. And boudoir photographers are like, well, yeah, I'm on page 2 now, I guess I gotta hope they delete their website and Google de-indexes them, so then hopefully Google can put me back on page 1. But no, this is 100% a false belief. It's 100% incorrect. And I know this because I myself went from 0 out of 10 slots page 1 on Google to 9 out of 10 slots page 1 on Google in only 10 days using our new methodology we developed. So I know Google will give us as many slots on page 1 as we want to put in the effort to acquire. 100%. I know that is true, which makes the false belief of page 1 equality false. Now, we also know that boudoir photographer with BSS is a disappearing boudoir photographer. That's because, if we got 0 slots page 1 on Google, we're only on page 2 or deeper, we're invisible to approximately 80% of Google searches. Yeah, we're disappearing and fast. Same if we only got 1 slot on page 1, we're still basically invincible, being price shopped to death. We're getting contact form fill outs, but price shopped, people gotta, they gotta save up for it. We know they never buy in. And as a result, both these are kind of a signal. Well, BSS, it's the signal. It's what makes us a disappearing boudoir photographer, but BSS itself is the signal that, the check engine light, the warning light that we're a disappearing boudoir photographer, which means our business is on the path itself to disappearing. That's what that means. But we did finally discover a solution. We discovered it because we invented it. So we discovered that BSS is treated with social search saturation, aka S cubed methodology. And we invented this, and it works exactly as it says, S cubed methodology. Social search saturation. We're saturating social search with the highest intent boudoir buyer keywords in our city. So we show up there, it's kind of like the snow at the top of the Andes Mountains on the backside, the eastern side in South America. So what happens with that snow is it melts, goes into small streams, small rivers, and eventually across the whole mountain range. It all actually flows to the Amazon River, which is the Amazon River is Google page 1. But we got to get our snow up top the mountains first. That's our social search saturation. And so when we rank there, get enough ranking there, then eventually flow onto Google page 1. Now, one of the interesting things is this is the only solution I've seen for boudoir photographers that can successfully fight back against market saturation and allow a boudoir photographer to grow their business even with more boudoir photographers entering the market every single day in a relatively quick time frame. And the only other solution I've seen that has a few of these properties is to actually have a large, well-known brand. That would definitely persist with market saturation. But dude, that takes like 5 to 10 years. That's not relatively quick. We ain't got time anymore. AI's coming to take more people's jobs every single day. We got to get page 1 domination, page 1 visibility ASAP. And so actually an interesting thing is my estimate is I believe S-cube methodology actually executing it increase the probability of having a large well-known brand by speeds it up by my estimate is 8x. So 8 times faster to achieve that. And imagine if you got a large well-known brand and you're using S-cube methodology, I mean, you're basically untouchable at that point. Now, for example, if S-cube methodology successfully grown a business in spite of more and more market saturation or massive market saturation, imagine, let's say there are 1 million boudoir photographers in Fargo, North Dakota. We're one of them. Everyone's got a boudoir photography website trying to rank page 1 on Google. You know, there's only 10 organic slots for 1 million boudoir photographers, so ultra competitive. And we don't have enough time to build a brand, so our only hope, our only solution is S-cubed methodology. And as a result, you know, we realize, hey, man, we got to crank this up to the max. So we do S-cubed methodology, we crank it up to the max. And let's say we're getting like we take over the first 300 slots of social search for the highest intent boudoir buyer keywords. Take up those slots, and when we, as a result, let's say it flows onto Google, and say we're taking the first 300 Google organic slots as well for high intent boudoir buyer search. And what actually happens is Google search is 10 organic slots per page. So dude, we're taking like the first 30 pages of Google. So let's say we do that, and guess what? Anytime any boudoir buyer in our city is searching on social networks or in Google, then what actually happens is we're basically the only one they see across all surfaces. You know, I mean, if they want to find us an organic search result, we're basically the first 300. They got to go page like 31 to basically see any of our competitors. And approximately 80% of Google searches never even hit page 2. They're page 1 only searches. Who the heck's going to page 31? So you can see how powerful this is. So obviously in this situation, whose business is growing? Most likely ours. Whose business is stalling, dying, disappearing? You know, the 999,999 other boudoir photographers who are competing, but no searchers can find them. And so this is what the magic of S-cube methodology can enable. Now, once you're with S-cube methodology, we now have page 1 visibility. Get our initial benefit, more slots page 1 on Google. Get our second initial benefit is every new slot we get, we actually kick off a competing boudoir photographer off page 1, effectively making them invisible. Now, this is super awesome. A lot of boudoir photographers feel like this is actually their benefit they like the best. Making other boudoir photographers become disappearing boudoir photographers on page 2, maybe on page 3, you know, and eventually those competitors' businesses disappear. And page 1 visibility activates boudoir search visibility for us. So this is where the GBC universe recommends hitting 3 out of 10 page 1 slots on Google search. And that's because basically everyone else will be 1 out of 10 slots. So we're going to be dominating all of them, looking totally different from all the others, really catching buyers' eyes because they're seeing our name so much. And if the off rare chance someone else has 2 slots, page 1 on Google, then we're still dominating them. And finally, we know that boudoir photographer with BSV, boudoir search visibility, is a visible boudoir photographer, a VBP. This is our micro universe here. A disappearing boudoir photographer with boudoir search sameness is caused by the dual horns of market saturation and the false belief of page one equality. But we now have a solution. We can utilize S-cubed methodology. We achieve page one visibility. We become a visible boudoir photographer with boudoir search visibility. All right, looking at my results here, utilizing S-cubed methodology for myself. I went to rank for the term BLCS boudoir and take as much page one slots as possible. So let's see the results I got by exclusively using S-cubed methodology. Let's get organic slot one here, Instagram. That's me. Slot 2, me. Slot 3, me. Slot 4, me. Slot 5, me. Slot 6, me. Slot 7, me. Slot 8, me. Slot 10, me. And as a result, I went from 0 out of 10 slots, page 1 Google search, to 9 out of 10 slots, page 1 Google search, in only 10 days, purely utilizing S-cubed methodology. So these are the results that I got. So now we're back to the meat. Let's see this boudoir photography business. If these two Google searches, see if they got see if this business has BSS, yes or no for the local search and the city search. All right, here we go. So we're going to organic. Let's see. All right, here we go. Yep, that's one. We got one. So this is the local search, Brentwood, Tennessee. All right, so we got one. We got, let's see. Now, we only got one. We got 1 out of 10 organic slots, page one on Google. So all right, we definitely have BSS for the local search. Now let's check our city search. Same thing. So now we're looking at Nashville, Tennessee. All right. Man, was that 10? 1, 2. I guess the discussion took up a huge chunk. Dang. Dude, we're at 0 out of 10 on Nashville. So we got boudoir search statements for both. Or this boudoir photography business has boudoir search statements for both Google searches. But now we got something that can fix that, S-cubed methodology. So if you are a disappearing boudoir photographer, you've got BSS, you did your local search and your city search, and you saw, you only got either 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google, and or you have not hit the GBC minimum, recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 slots on page 1. And you understand the page 1 equality belief, and now you're like, oh yeah, obviously that's false, when we didn't really even think about it before, because now we see how I got 9 out of 10 on page 1 on Google organic search results. And you understand the market saturation, yeah. New iPhones, new boudoir photographers, new camera, new boudoir photographers. But you're also seeing AI take more and more people's jobs, and you're like, okay, like COVID brought in a flood of boudoir photographers. AI is taking more people's jobs, probably gonna bring in a flood of boudoir photographers as well. So you want to prepare for the influx of supply of sellers by kind of fortifying your page 1 Google presence. So essentially never allow those people joining to show up page 1 on Google. And you see S-cubed methodology, and you're like, yes, finally, I've been waiting for something like this. So you want to use S-cubed methodology to achieve page 1 visibility, become a visible boudoir photographer, achieve boudoir search visibility. And also you want the back-end bonuses of using S-cubed methodology as well, which we haven't talked about yet, we'll talk about now, which is we're basically building thematic keyword columns via social and on Google that are kind of columns plugged into our brand, our basically the name of our business, our social handles. And those thematic keyword columns, guess what? They increase the probability we show up here in the AI overview. They increase the probability we show up in AI search like ChatGPT search, Claude search, Perplexity search, Microsoft Copilot search, Google Gemini search. Increase in the probability there. And last time I did ChatGPT search for boudoir photographers in the city recommended me. It only gave me 3. And AI search is increasing every single day. More and more people use an AI search every single day. Still, Google is about 90% search volume. But we're kind of pre-positioning ourselves AI search, which S-cube methodology helps with. And kind of once we build this kind of back-end invisible momentum, these thematic keyword columns that plug into all these, basically prevent people ranking on page 1 against us and build up our keep building up and increase our probability of showing up across all these AI searches. And you decide you want to be a first mover because this has got to get done. Start building up this momentum because again, ads momentum goes to 0 when you stop spending. This momentum will continue ongoing. Basically, these have momentum, not infinite momentum, but you decide you want to start the momentum, then keep growing the momentum, actually dominate page 1. And you also see that the further you put yourself ahead of the competition now, when AI starts basically kind of forcing people to become boudoir photographers, you'll be well positioned to be unaffected by it because you've already built up page 1 domination, which is like, dude, that's like 7 out of 10 slots or more. Page 1 Google, 8 out of 10 slots or more. And being recommended AI search, putting distance between you and everyone else. And you want to basically guarantee that you put so much distance, nobody can catch up. Instead of a competitor working with me, where plan right now is to only work with 1 person per city. Instead of a competitor getting all these kind of momentum bonuses and page 1 slots where then you would have to actually, if I were to continue work with them, you would have to rederive the S-cubed methodology on your own, figure out how to actually get it to work. And then you will never actually know if you're doing it correctly, how we've done it. And then you'd have to equal our output to maintain the distance kind of behind your competitor that I could be working with. And you'd have to kind of double our output to actually make up that lost ground and build back up the momentum and take it from us. So you've decided, well, it's better to simply become the first mover here. So we get all the benefits, none of the drawbacks. So if you want all these benefits, shoot me a DM when I open for new patient intake. I'm not currently open for new patient intake, so even if you want to work with me, you cannot. But when I do open up the hospital for new patient intake, shoot me a DM and we will see if you qualify.